Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. I hope everyone is doing okay. And really glad to see all of you at the 12th week. I'm happy that you are still supporting us and hopefully getting some knowledge out of it. So, really happy that we have reached up to 12 week, and that doesn't mean that the journey is ending. There are some exciting things we would be planning for the next sessions. So, we will be talking about that. Just as an icebreaker question, can you type in chat how many BESA sessions you have attended live? How many BESA sessions you have attended live for batch 05? So we had 12 session today. If you could tell me how many BESA sessions you have attended so far into live setting, that would help us out. And while you do this, let me introduce you to team. Today we have kind of a full house. So we have Nicole coming back, and then we have Sharik also who is here. Hi Sharik. And then we have Parna and we have Prasad. So whole lineup. We are still missing some people. Kapil took off, and then Richard is not here. We do not have Remy also. But yeah, means everyone, thank you so much for supporting us. Okay, I could see some information here coming from 12. Wow, that is good. All 12. Thank you, Lakshmi. Rose 10, Anuradha Iyer 11, Vaislava 12, Cynthia all 12. So much happy to see this thing, and thank you for your support. This wouldn't have been possible without you and support of all the volunteers who are spending their time when on the weekend, being busy schedule, going lots of things personally. Thank you so much for that. You want to add anyone? Prasad, Nicole, Parna, Sharik, 12th week. We will go into the regular course, but let's talk a little bit further first.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for being here with us for all the 12 weeks, irrespective of you have been able to join live or not. I know a lot of people watch it offline, which is completely fine. Let's keep the momentum going. As Ashish said, this is not the end. We are just beginning with the journey. We'll plan for more sessions and we'll talk about that in a moment. And as you folks know, we have started the Discord channel. So anyone who has not joined the Discord channel, please do join the Discord channel, connect with other cloud enthusiasts, and we have daily exam questions going on there, and I think a lot of good discussions happening. So we'll keep continuing that and keep helping each other. So let's keep the community growing, and let's all keep learning.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to give kudos to a lot of people I saw in the 12 weeks. They've passed cloud practitioner
Let's
examinations,
all
and a
keep
couple of
learning.
you even in solution architect associate. So kudos to all of you. So you all did it before the 12 weeks, and all the best to the ones who are going to appear for them too. And thank you for keeping up with us. It encourages us to come back week after week also. So thank you so much. And please join Discord. We all of us may not be that active on Discord, so help each other out. As and when we are able to, we'll obviously come back to you. So thanks again. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I just kind of attach myself to everything that has been said. And going forward, I mean, this whole BESA group is a community, right? You're not just hundreds of individuals doing your own thing. Find your study buddy, join together to go on your journey, because all of you might have different interests after this initial stage. So find those people, no matter where they are, and have regular meetups with them to just share experiences and also exchange things that really work for your projects you've worked on. Community learning is really the best way to grow professionally, and to also, find help and have some kind of sounding board if sometimes things get frustrating.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, so Sharik, you played a lot of time role of a consultant, so people liked it, and people said that I don't want to be interviewed by Sharik if it happens because you asked so many questions to Parna. It was interesting, but yeah, I'm just giving a perspective here. It was
Yeah.
really nice to see all
I mean,
these things.
the intention was always to help
Exactly,
understand everybody that how does it look like in real time. And my idea
real
was to
time.
do very specific things, right? So it is going to help everybody in the interviews, actual interviews, and of course, in if you're in a real consulting like scenarios. Again, we always think of I mean, consulting that okay, we are doing consulting, but even if like I have done support roles, right? I have been in support roles previously. Even when you do a support role, it's very important to ask the right questions, understand the customer's mindset. And these are the small things, the whole idea, we always discuss this behind the scenes as well, that, technology can be taught, but these soft skills, it's very difficult. And it's something which you practice and you master within yourselves. Nobody can teach you these things. So you learn,
I
you
agree.
observe, and you see from others. So that was the intention. Sorry, Parna.
No.
I learned a lot. No, it's great because handling situations is also something
Exactly.
soft skill, right? Adapting at the moment. So that's also something you gain only through these first-hand experiences. So
True.
thank you. So I think I had my sessions with all of you, with Nicole, with Sharik, with Ashish also, and yeah, and of course everybody knows about Prasad's all those great posts that he has about how you can develop your skills. So go back and check those out as well. So it's an addition of these sessions plus those. So it was a great learning for us as well. So
That's
yeah,
true.
over to you,
And we
Ashish.
would continue today in the same manner. So we would have Prasad present first, and he would talk about some resume building tips. And afterward, we would go into the mock exam questions. And we will then talk about the well architected track. At least 2 sessions we are planning, but it depends. So we will go for that. So Prasad, I'm handing it over to you, and others would join in and keep your questions coming. We would keep on responding. And you have Prasad, do you have any screen to share?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I do
good.
have a
I'll
blank
add it.
screen too.
And yeah,
I'll do it in a moment. I'll do it in a moment.
sure.
But yeah, the discussions that we had, I think it was week 10 when we were having the behavioral session, and a lot of questions were coming on the behavior, the resume building, that how we get our resume shortlisted, or how we should be building resume. So I thought, okay, let's have a session on that. Now, when I was thinking yesterday about what should be presenting, I thought, okay, I'll create a PowerPoint about resume building tips, but I thought it will be getting boring and you will be able to find those tips anyways. So I thought, okay, let's do one thing. Let's create a resume from scratch and then see how we can do it. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to create a resume using the AI tools. No surprise, right? AI is everywhere. So let's do that. I use a Claude, but you're free to use any AI tool of your choice. But I generally use Claude. I've been using it for more than a year almost, I think now. But let me share my screen. And what I'll do is that I'll give it a prompt, a general prompt to create a resume for me. It'll give me a sample resume, and then we'll use one of the resume building tool to shape it up.
Prasad, just a quick question. Like some people may not be aware about what Claude is, so if you could little bit talk about that.
Oh yeah, Claude. So everyone knows about OpenAI ChatGPT, right? So that was the first one, and that's the most popular one. There are a lot of other players in the market which are equally good, or I would say at some points they are better. In fact, Claude day before yesterday released a new model called a Sonnet, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and it's amazing. You folks would love it in case if you have not used it yet. So let me put this in the chat window here, so that in case if anyone would like to use Claude, you can simply sign up by creating your account. I have not subscribed to Pro. Without even subscribing, it works really well for me. If you're a very heavy user, then probably you might run low on credits and you might want to subscribe for a Pro. But if you're a general user like me, you need not need a Pro, and so it will be free for everyone, and it really works well. Now, in terms of creating the flow that I'm thinking is that we'll give it a prompt to create a sample resume, and then we will use that sample resume to create an actual, like on a resume builder. But I would then open up for everyone to either try it alongside on your own, in your own laptops or screens that you have, or if anyone would like to give me a prompt that we would like to use for everyone, we can do that. So the first prompt I'm going to give is this: create a sample resume of a person with 2 years of cloud experience. Let's correct, though it's not required to correct it, but still cloud experience for a cloud support engineer role. I'm just,
Prasad, can you zoom in a bit so that it is easier for everyone to see it? Sorry if I keep on interrupting, but yeah.
No, that's
good.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, actually. I'm actually switching between multiple screens, so I might not be able to. And Ashish, it seems like my photo is cutting it, so I need to change the layout. Let me change the layout a bit. I think not this one. Now, yeah, this one is better, I think. Yeah. Hopefully everyone is able to look at the prompt. Anyone who wants to give up, I'll give them 4-5 minutes. If anyone wants to create a prompt of their own experience, feel free. But for now, let's use with this prompt and we'll try a couple of them, right? Create a sample resume of a person with 2 years of cloud experience for a cloud support engineer role. Let's see what it comes up with. Instead of that, let me do this. I think this will be better. Yeah. So it creates a sample resume for you. We'll look into it in a minute. So see, we can always ask AI, give me resume building tips, right? Instead, what it does, if you ask it to create a resume, it not only creates a resume, but also it, talks about few things. And you can always update it based on what your experience is. But if you look into here, it gave me a sample resume of a person, John Doe, with an email, professional summary, dedicated cloud support engineer with 2 years of experience in AWS and Azure environments, skilled in troubleshooting complex cloud infrastructure issues and such. And then in professional experience, cloud support engineer at one of the company, what the person has done, junior cloud support, technical skills, talks about few of the things, certifications. It will also give you an idea about what kind of skills you need to acquire to apply to these kinds of roles. One way you can always do is that open a job description, copy paste, and say that create an ideal resume for this job description, and it will create an ideal resume for it. And then you can look into the gaps that you have and you can start acquiring those skills. Now, I know a lot of people who do not have cloud experience, but they have done their own, hands-on labs. So how does the resume would look like for that? So if I give another prompt, right? And if let's say the prompt is this. Hope everyone is able to see the screen is not that small. Yeah. Create a sample resume of a person with no experience with cloud projects for a cloud support engineer role. The person has extensive hands-on labs on AWS, has done, let's say on AWS to self-learn and created projects on AWS and has got AWS associate certification. So if we give a prompt like this, the person who's not have industry experience, but has created, has got certifications and done hands-on experience on their own, it'll again create another resume. And provides you that what the resume highlights, right? If you want to try it as side by side, please do it. Use your own prompts to create it on your own. It will be helpful for you to look into it. Or if you want to share a prompt with so that everyone would see, feel free to share it with me and I will do it here and then we can see how it works live. But once you have this basic thing, obviously this will not match your resume, right? Or your experience. But you would be able to get an idea about how to structure your resume. I see a lot of people who provide a lot of information on the resume which might not be required. So you can get that kind of idea from here. And then what we can do is that there are a lot of online CV tools that you can use to build. The one that I'm going to show you is of resumod.co. Let me do one thing. Let me put this link here. And again, feel free to try it besides, like we are doing it. But there are other tools like Resumod. Why I'm showing this is because this is something that is, a discount coupon is available with our starter kit, Become a Solutions Architect, Cloud Career Journeys starter kit. So there are discount coupons available for that. And all of them will have a free preview to download or create one resume. There is another one, Flow CV, I think. Yeah. And that is also pretty good. Use whichever tool you would like. It doesn't matter, frankly. And all of them, the pricing is also very nominal, even if you need to, create more than one resumes for yourself. There is another one called Enhanced CV. Again, feel free to use whichever you would like. ATS proof, I'll come to it, Ramsai. I'll show the ATS proof one in a moment. Remind me if I forget that. But use any tool that you would like. I'm going to show you demo of ResumeMod, how easy it is to create your resumes in one of these online AI tools. Anyways, so I logged in. You can also create a login for yourself and you can log into it. And once you have login, it says create a new resume, right? I'm going to click on create a new resume. It asks me to select a template. And this is where the beauty comes, right? You can automatically create a whichever template you like. It'll automatically adjust your resume data in that template. So, and there will be a lot of them that were available for you. I'm going to use let's see, which one should I use? Hold on. Okay, let's use this one to start with. And then it asks for a few things. If you already have a resume, you can use that. It will automatically adjust it. In case if you have your LinkedIn profile in which you have explained everything properly, you can import your LinkedIn profile, or you can create a new resume starting from scratch. So for this example, let's do that. Start from the scratch. What I'll do is that I'm going to push it here for a moment. It shows some PII, so I'm going to remove that. And then I'm going to bring it back. Okay. So what I've done is that I've added the names as test users, testuser@gmail.com. So this is what it shows as a blank canvas. Now you have your resume here. So let's start copy pasting. What let me do if I can do it a better way. Ta-da. I'm going to this. Okay. I'm just going to use it for copy pasting it first, and then we will see the templates. When you have your resume, you can easily do this. And the Sarah Johnson does not have any job title as of now, which is completely okay because she is new, does not have any industry experience. So that is fine. Email address. And then it has add additional details. LinkedIn. So let's give LinkedIn. And what you would see is that if you're noticing, it automatically starts populating here. If you upload a photo, it will start showing the photo also, right? But what we'll do is that we'll start with a professional summary. Let's see how it starts shaping up. So add the professional summary, and professional summary gets shown here. Later on I'll like zoom in and show it more. Skills. So once professional summary is done, let's try and there is no employment history. It is fine. Skills. Let's add skills. It says cloud platform AWS. Okay. And then you can provide the level. So it can be beginner or skillful, right? Let's say programming, Python and Bash. Version control, Git. This will also give you that as a beginner, what all you should be knowing. Okay, I'm not going to add all the skills, but you got the idea about how you can show. And if you see here, it starts showing all your skills here. Okay, now we need to add some projects. Now we do not have employment history, which is okay, but what we can do is that we can add projects. So we can add a custom section, and what we can do is that in the custom section we can say projects, title, serverless web application, description, and this is where you can get more creative. Develop serverless application using AWS Lambda. Yeah. Implemented user authentication with Cognito. Awesome. Utilize S3 for static web hosting. Great. And automated development. So this is where when you do these workshops, right? For example, if you have done 12 weeks workshop, then you would, when you're done these hands-on experience, you can think about what all you have done and what all you have learned, and you can add those here. And that will be helpful. Right. And you can keep adding. And for example, here, you just add these dates so that they know that you have been continuously working on these. If I let me add another one, which is highly available WordPress. And obviously, when you're adding these, be ready that, because you're showcasing that you have done these personal projects, there might be questions on those. So obviously, if you've got certifications, you've done, like hands-on labs, you would be able to answer them. Then we have cost. So we can have more and more of these, projects and stuff. Oh, there was a projects line. Oh, okay. So instead of adding it here separately in a custom section, you can always add it here in the project. See here in the project section. Oh, we have a project section here. Oh, okay. And they have this timeline also. So let me do one thing. So that's what, once you start adding here, it's very easy to actually, let me do this. Wow. Instead of June, what was the date here? March. Good. March to April. And the project's title is serverless web application. Add item. And then let me add one more here, and then we'll delete the previous one. So you can add these projects here like this. Should be fine. And let's delete these. And what we will do is that instead of this custom, we'll make it as certifications. Do we have any certifications here? No. So let's add certifications. And in the certifications, let's see. Yeah. Here you can add your Credly number, Credly also. That will be helpful. But you can always add it like this, and along with till when it is valid and stuff. So once you add all of this, right, and then relevant coursework, you can talk about that additional training that you have. You can always add all of this additional skills, and this is really good to showcase your soft skills and languages. It depends in which area you are. But see, it keeps building your resume like this. And it ensures that, see, I've seen some resumes, even for freshers, that it goes into 3 pages. It's never required. 1 page or max 2 page is more than enough. And these templates will always help you to, ensure that you are able to showcase all your skills, education, and everything. Okay, no, I've not added education, right? We should also add education. So there should be somewhere where, yeah, education, right? So here, let's see, education. So let's add education too. Degree Bachelor of Computer Science. Year only, let's say 2019 to 2023. And then city is not required. And then you can provide in description that you would like. And if we come here, it shows the education. Now, I believe that you might want to showcase projects above education or certification in case if you have an employment history, depends upon where you would like to showcase them, right? So in that case, you can always go to layout here. And you think that projects are more important, make projects above. And it will automatically refresh this and it will make the projects above. So once you have entered all the data, it will automatically help you do all of that. So it will create a very beautiful resume for yourself. And then you can always go to templates back and you can, change the format. Whichever one you would like, you can do it. You can use the AI assistant here itself if you would like. So there are a lot of options that you can do. But what I recommend is that a lot of these tools are available, which are available almost at free of cost for you. So even if you think about upgrading, right? So see, daily, if you are planning to create your resume in a specific day, you can go for a daily plan, just pay like $2 and you will be able to download your resume, create a resume and download. You can think about going for a weekly plan, just 1 week, $300, and then you go. Even if you go for a monthly plan, it's not much, right? And anyways, it gives you one free resume. You can download it for free. So you can always, instead of even going for upgrade, you can always do it without that also. How do I go back? Yeah, here. I'll see if there are any questions specific to this. And I know we are almost about time. Now coming to the ATS. So in the more, there's a request ATS docs here. So it will be able to provide you with a ATS. So yeah, if you look at those, so you will be able to. So this, it will ask me the premium version. So I'm not going to do that. But if you have, then it will be able to request your ATS docx. So it will be able to provide you with all the information that is required for ATS, and it will be able to format your resume as per the ATS also. And all these tools would be having such, what you call, features. Yes, I see a comment from Elizabeth that, yeah, it's amazing how much these tools can offer. Yes, these tools are really actually unique. I kind of like them for quick building your resumes, and not only just building, customizing them. Because see, at some jobs, you would like to showcase your employment history before your education. Other places, you might want to do vice versa. At some places, you want to highlight your skills more than the others. At other place, you might want to highlight your certifications. So all you need to do is that go to your layout and keep playing. If you want to show your certifications at the top, go and make it certifications at the top, and then download your resume accordingly, right? So it's very customizable stuff. That's pretty much, that's what I wanted to cover quickly on the resume building tricks. Instead of giving you tips that what you should be showing and not showing, try and use AI to get a basic version, adapt your resume accordingly, and then use these tools to showcase what you would like to showcase.
This is great tip, Prasad. I have few follow-up questions which I'm picking up from the chat which is coming up. So one is like, if you are a hiring manager, how you see a resume built by AI? Do you have any reservation around it, or do you appreciate it, or you say, no, it's not going to work?
So see, now for example, if I read this, aspiring cloud support engineer with a strong foundation in AWS technologies demonstrated through hands-on projects and extensive lab work, is completely fine. Recently obtained AWS certification, completely fine. As long as I do not start seeing the words like game changer, fostering, they're unlocking. As long as I don't see those words, I know that the person must have used AI, which is good, but has able to work on top of it to ensure that it does not look like purely AI generated. Anything that is reflecting your experience, it is completely fine, right? Even in
Makes
project
sense.
level, developed a serverless web application using AWS Lambda API
You may have to
gateway and
zoom in a
DynamoDB.
little bit. It is very, very small as of now. Yeah, this is better.
Yeah, like developed a serverless web application using AWS Lambda API gateway and DynamoDB, completely fine. Yeah, right. Developed, it when you read it, you'll be able to understand that whether the
Yeah.
person has done it or not. In that ways, I really like Claude, because when I look at the output of other tools versus cloud seems much more natural language, much more human, and that's why I continue using Claude compared to other tools.
Makes sense. And now there was one more question. Would Claude not automatically create a ATS compatible resume? Do you need to
Oh
still
yes, give it
perform
in
the
the
check?
prompt. Yeah.
Okay, give it in a
You need to
prompt.
give it in the prompt that please create a ATS compliant resume. Now here is the catch, right? I was having this conversation with one of the person who recently actually shifted to UK, and the person has a good experience, like more than 10 years of experience and with good companies. But it's not updated resume for long, and the resume that the person has created was awesome on his own. The person has created resume amazing, and it was very ATS friendly. That means it shows all the keywords and all really standing out. One thing that I noticed is that when you start creating ATS friendly resume, the focus is more on the keywords and probably little bit less on other things, which works really well to get your resume shortlisted. But let's say if you're getting your resume referred, in those scenarios, I'm not talking generalizing it, but in most of the cases, in most scenarios, then the resume, because it is referred, it is going directly to the recruiter or the hiring manager. It does not go through the ATS for the first filtering. So have two resumes, one that can get through those resume, like ATS thing, and one that you can use directly as a referral, where you showcase more of your experience and let's focus on just the keywords.
Yeah, makes sense. And Sharik, if you are on, I would like to add you to stage because there was a question which you answered in chat and that question came again. So probably you could answer that. So should we add a photo into resume or not? Headshot. Obviously not your beach photo. Headshot.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, it's very important, and that's a very, very important question as well, because it depends on the geographies, and the person who asked that question was actually right in saying that in Middle Eastern regions, places like Dubai and Bahrain, etc., they are generally expected to put a headshot. In fact, not just that. I remember discussing with some of the folks, like this is long time back. There, they expect you to put your passport details as well. Like the passport number and when it is
Yeah,
expiring.
means at least the nationality on the passport in a way.
Nationality, right? But here, like for example, in EMEA, in India, in NA, that's not needed. In fact, that's something which you should not, according to me, because that your password, your
GDPR.
passport is it's a GDPR, and in general, you don't want to publish your passport for the whole world, right? That's not a good idea. So yeah, that's the thing. Another important point, I saw this again with one of my friends a few years back. What she had done was, especially when you have your personal details in your resume, and you put that as one of the highlighted things in the LinkedIn profile. You have a section where you highlight that your resume there. Be careful, because just remember that LinkedIn has got it's a publicly available thing, right? And your personal details, your personal email, your personal phone number is being visible to the whole world. So be very careful with that, whether you want to do that or not, especially when you're pushing that or publishing that on LinkedIn. Because when you put that in the LinkedIn profile, it's not visible to everybody. But when you put on a resume and then put on, highlight that, I forgot the word. There is a section in LinkedIn where you highlight your last few things what you have done, and you highlight the resume as well.
Featured section.
Featured section, exactly. Sorry. So yeah, that's the one. So if you're putting it there, just be careful, because your personal details are being highlighted there. Yep.
Makes
And
sense.
there is another
And
question that I see. As per the GD, we need to prepare CVs in these days, right? Let me very quickly, again, I'll use AI, share the screen. And so see, this, your cover letter, so CV, okay, you're talking about prepare CV in this. So always go to here, like, like for example, jobs. Let's say I'm looking for a solutions architect role. So let's say this role is, and this role is anyone who is graduating in 2024. Okay, so this is mainly for freshers. We can use this, that is fine. So what we can do is that copy, paste, and then give a prompt, create a CV for a solutions architect role at AWS with below job description. Right? Create a sample CV, and then it should be able to create a sample CV for you. Right? Now the question sometimes comes is that we need to also add cover letter. Once you have your CV ready, whichever way you create here, then you can say, thank you, attached is my CV, please create a cover letter based on my CV and job description. So I've not provided any attached file, so it is saying I'm not accessed. But if I upload a CV, then it will be able to give you with a cover letter. And again, as someone mentioned, when you read this, ensure that this is something that you would be writing, right? It should not be AI look like AI generated. For example, here it seems like, okay, aspiring solutions architect with a strong foundation, completely fine. If it, comes up with a very absurd words that you would not be using in your day-to-day life, ensure that you change it. And if required, give it a prompt, use natural language, and then it will, tone down anything like that. Okay, I'll stop my screen share. Ashish, do you want to come back?
yeah, makes sense. And then I have one tip to just share because it's a resume topic. Like read your CV one time and think what top 3 question you would ask if you were the interviewer based on that CV. At least top 3 question. Like if I have an interesting thing mentioned, like hey, I did XYZ thing, which is not some everybody's doing. Probably expect a question or answer on that. So read your own CV like you are an interviewer and see what top 3 questions come to your mind. If this was the CV you had to interview for, what you would start with. So make sure that you pay attention there too.
Yeah, that's very important. Even if it's a very simple thing like, build a scalable web application, right?
Yep.
Be prepared to answer questions on that.
Yeah.
At all the application, it can be all the 3 years, right? Or a multi-tier application. So be ready to talk about the presentation layer, the backend, the database, all the 3 application layer and the database. Be prepared to talk about all of that in detail. See, it's your resume kinds of shapes in what direction your interview would go. And then your introduction, when the person asks you to introduce yourself, do not go on a 10 minutes rant ever. Just use it for 1 or 2 minutes to highlight the things that you would want the interviewer to ask you questions about. Obviously, talk about the job description. Don't talk that I'm a very good cricket player or I love watching football.
Unless you are interviewing with Sachin Tendulkar, that's okay.
Yeah. So it's like be relevant to the job description and the
Agree.
opening, and then it will be all good. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Prasad. Nice tips on that. And it's a good practical way to do it. And people do it, share your resume, build it, and it may take time. Don't rush it. It will not be like it is like one time I have done and I do not need to update it. see how the traction comes off once you submit that resume. If you have to change something, make sure you are aware. And sometime what may happen that you may have created 10 versions of resume, you submitted one and you do not know which one you have submitted. So be aware about that factor also. Make sure you know which version you have submitted so that the interviewer may see a different picture of yours than what you have on your own. So just be aware about those things. Thank you so much, Prasad. And now I would
Just one
add.
question.
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, there was a question that which format the
PDF or Word?
should be. I'll always prefer PDF, very frankly. Generally, because it's go for PDF. And there was another question that whether you should be having it as a personal website or something like that. Feel free to have a personal website too. That's always good. You can showcase one of the project that you created. On AWS, you created a personal website, right? So feel free. But generally, you would need a document to submit. So have a PDF version ready that you can submit. That's all. I'll not take more time. Thank you, everyone.
No worries. It's interesting tips, and that is needed. Obviously, people are looking to go for a job, and interview is the first thing, or before even interview comes, resume. So interesting.
And if anyone wants to share their resume on the Discord channel to get the feedback from the community, feel free. It's a very safe
remove
space.
some PII data. Don't put your phone numbers and all. Just people could spam. So remove PII data and say this is what my resume looks like. Anyone wants to give a feedback, feel free. Use community. Don't misuse community, but use community. I would put it like that.
Yeah, anonymize the personal data and then share it to get a feedback. Cool.
Great. Now I would add Sharik to the stage and we would go ahead with some question and answer series. Thank you, Prasad. I'll add Sharik now. Sharik, I'm adding your screen also onto the stage and let's get started. I forgot, Sharik, was it a question answer directly by you or was Berna is going to be there or how is it? Is it not a role play, right, today?
What do you prefer?
Or means whatever comfortable to you.
Okay, let
I see, just to share people as information that I can't make Sharik angry on me today at least because he has invited me to his home for a biryani party. So obviously I have to respect whatever he says. Anyways, I will do it, but today it is very special. So we will share some picture afterwards.
Sure. Let me share the presentation. I put that in a PPT format. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. So yeah, this is what we're going to do. We are going to spend about maybe 25-30 minutes. Just like I think I saw the video Kapil did the last time. So we'll go through a few questions. I am not looking at the chat at the moment, but if you have any questions, just put it there. And what we will do, we will kind of discuss a few things, why an answer is correct, why the other option is not correct, and things on those lines. And I'll give you some tips and tricks along the line. All right, so here's the first question. And I'll give you like maybe 10-20 seconds to just put in your responses in the chat window. Just put A, B, C, or D. Read the question carefully and think of it like an actual exam. And while we're talking, just one more point to remember is that not every question is, at the complexity level of very high or very complex. What I have done, I have purposely kept the questions, some questions a bit tough where you have to read. Some are pretty straightforward. Some of them are basic, intermediate. So I've tried to keep a mix and match of these questions. So just so you know. So go ahead, put in your responses. I'll give you like 10 seconds and then we will talk about them. Just checking if the responses are coming in. Okay, I'm looking at, I just wanted to put that in a separate window. So I'm seeing a lot of people are putting in A. I see a few of you are putting in C, B as well, but predominantly I see everybody is putting in A, which I think is the right answer. Let's see. Yep, it is. So if you see there, data is automatically replicated to a different availability zones within a region. So of course, that is the right answer. Now, some of the important points to remember, this is again a pretty straightforward, not a very complicated question, but sometimes people get confused with this option C. Remember, your data in any of the AWS services is never going to be replicated automatically to a different region. Can someone tell me in the chat window why? Why do you think we will never do that? Just a quick short, maybe 1 word, 2 word answer. Why we will never put the data in a different region, like automatic replication. Why we would not do that? Cost, I see some of the people are putting cost. That is an indirect one, not a direct one. I won't say it's not the case, but yes, definitely. But I see Rachel saying regulatory. I see PD saying GDPR. A lot of you are mentioning regulations and compliance. Absolutely right. So because of that reason, we would never put the data. So remember, we have two kinds of replications in S3. One is the automatic one, where because of the high availability, where we replicate your data in multiple data centers and multiple availability zones. On top of that, if you want to make additional copies of your data, you have these two options of something called single region replication, SRR, or cross region replication. So remember that we have some automatic replication, and then we have some additional replications which you can do depending on what kind of data requirements you need, an additional backup. You want this for DR purposes. There can be various requirements. But just remember, we have two different kinds of replications, and make sure you read about them if you have any confusions. So even though it's a pretty straightforward question, as you can see, we have a lot of points to discuss.
Sharik, I want to go back to the previous question just to make some points clear. So what happens if there is a single zone storage tier I have used? Can you explain that? Because in S3 there is a single zone storage also, or one zone IA as we call it. What is
Right.
that?
So in that case, yes, as the name suggests, it's a single zone or a one zone replication. So the data is being replicated only in a single zone. So I'm assuming that everybody is comfortable with the idea of multiple data centers comprising of a single AZ, and then multiple AZs becoming a single region. So imagine that, probably I'll just put a small picture there. So when you have this region, it is actually divided into multiple availability zones. So in a default scenario, your data is going in all of these places. The data is going over here in the whole region, in all the availability zones. But when you have a single zone or a one zone, you have this storage class if you choose. So the data will be over here or only over here. Of course, you need to remember that here we still have multiple data centers. This is, again, not a single DC. This is one of the things which I always, highlight this. So this has to be remembered, that you have these multiple data centers, but they're all within a single availability zone. That's a very important point to remember. So the data durability, if you will be a bit less, but still it depends on what kind of data you have. If it is not a very sensitive, or I should say not a very important data for you, it can be replicated, it can be recreated. You typically use one zone to save some cost there, because one zone is obviously a bit cheaper compared to a standard S3 standard storage class. So yeah, there we go. All right, so let's move on to the second question. Once again, this is about a company storing an access key text file. There are a bunch of things. I'll let you read. Let's imagine a situation where you are in a classroom, in an exam hall. Read through the question, and once again, just put in your response, A, B, C, or D. This is still a single right answer option. We will have multiple choice options as well later on, but this is one single right answer. I'm looking at the chat there, Abhijit's question, and then Cremo's response. It's a mouse, yes. I'll tell you the tool. It's a good one. I would recommend that. All right, so far I don't see any ambiguity there. I see pretty much everybody agrees on C. Let's see if that is the right answer. It is indeed. Well done, folks. Let's see. Company is storing access key in a text file on a custom AMI. Company uses access key to access DynamoDB tables. So, of course, people who are experienced developers and sysadmins who have worked in the industry for long enough to make mistakes, that's how I put it generally, this is a bad idea, right? Putting things in text file. or anywhere, hard coding your credentials is a bad idea. Don't do that. So what are the options available in AWS? If you're familiar with the concept of IAM roles, that is exactly what lets you do that. I'll not go into the details because we have discussed this in the past, but IAM role is a very important way of communicating or accessing your different services and different components in a temporary fashion. So I always put this as, if you see IAM role, think sudo. The way we have sudo working in such a way that when you do a sudo, let's say yum install something, it gives you that elevated privileges for that command. In very similar fashion, IAM role gives you that thing without the need to hard code the variables into, hard code the access keys and secret access keys into anywhere, any of the text files or on your instance. So C is the right answer, of course. A is not even relevant, so that's incorrect. Access key in an S3 bucket, again, this is hard coding, so bad idea. You should not do that. Putting the access key to the instance through instance user data. I'm assuming everybody is comfortable with the concept of user data. You pass on these scripts to do something on the instance. Once again, this is again a way of hard coding your credentials. So once again, don't do that. So the right answer is C here. Any questions I can answer? I'm assuming it's all straightforward so far, because all of these things we have discussed in our previous sessions. In security, when we talked about IAM, there was one session I remember. So it has been discussed. Probably you want to keep a note somewhere if you want to, if this is something which is confusing and you want to brush up later on. IAM role is a very important concept, by the way. If you're not comfortable with this already, make sure you spend some time and understand the difference between, we have IAM, I always divide into 4 components. So users, groups, policies, and roles. So make sure you have a very clear understanding of the 4 components, which sort of make up of IAM as a service. Alrighty, so let's move on. All good. Thank you, Elizabeth. Question number 3. Once again, this is going towards networking, networking and security. If I talk about the domain, so I'll give you like 10-15 seconds, read through it. Once again, just let me know A, B, C, or D. And thank you, Perna, for correcting. I actually marked this wrong yesterday. And then Perna corrected me with this question. I see responses coming in. Through C. All right. While we are at it, how about this? People who have responded so far, tell me why. Tell me what changes when you use that service which you have just mentioned. Okay, so I see there is no confusion so far. I'll give you another 5 seconds so that everybody has put in their responses, but looks like. Okay, thank you, Abhijit. It's private Amazon network. Or, okay, let me kind of answer it like a private VPN connection, secure, okay. Private links are being used. That's like more appropriate. Thank you. Flows through AWS network. I see the responses. Thank you so much, folks. So you guys are wonderful. Absolutely correct. So yes, the correct answer absolutely is the VPC endpoints. The question, if you look at this, it says application running on EC2 instance processes sensitive information stored on Amazon S3. The information is accessed over the internet. The keyword here, one of the keywords here is, of course, it is accessed. Currently, it is accessed over the internet. The security team is concerned that the internet connectivity to Amazon S3 is a security risk. Now, remember this. When we work with, a lot of people have confusion around this concept, kind of, put this wrap around your head, that when you work with S3, when you work with DynamoDB, when you work with a lot of AWS services, the endpoints which they talk to, that those are public endpoints, which means that you need, for example, if you have, say, for example, if you have, this is your AWS workload, and let's say you have an S3 bucket over here. When you want these two to communicate, imagine this is your multiple instances. You have some EC2 instance, some workload. It could be, again, it could be EC2, it could be something else, or RDS, whatever, the communication. And this is your S3 as a service, right? You're using that. So what happens here is the fact that this communication, this is happening on public API endpoints, which means if you think of this like a VPC, you need an internet gateway. And you would all know that if you need an internet gateway, that means the traffic is going out, the packets are going out. Now, of course, if it is a app-to-app communication, it is not something which is very desirable, let's put it this way. As long as it is not catering to the external, your end users, you want that to be completely isolated from the internet. You don't want your application packets to go over the internet. And that is where this service comes into picture called VPC endpoints, which let's put it this way, that which enforces your communication to go through Amazon private networks, right? We have this concept of Amazon backbone network, which we would have discussed in our global infrastructure along with regions and availability zones. And you would know that everything, all of our data centers, they are physically connected through high-speed, low-latency cables. And you can enforce your application packets to go through these backbone networks instead of going over the internet. And how you can do that? Using these concepts called VPC endpoints. Within endpoints, you again have, you have these interface endpoints and gateway endpoints. We are not going into those details, but still, just remember, endpoints is the one which you would utilize if you enforce your communication to go through the backbone network. Okay. Now, from networking perspective, there's one more thing I want to highlight. Make sure, especially from the exam perspective, let me see if I have that link open. There is this one. I'll put it somewhere, or maybe, Parna, let me see if I can, or maybe Parna, if you can please put that link, or maybe we'll share this later on, not a problem. What I want to show you is that if you see here, make sure if I come to the networking section, look at this. Think of it like a cheat sheet, and make sure you have a very clear understanding. If I highlight all these different components for solution architect associate level exams and for cloud practitioner, both of them, you need to know what is a subnet, what is a route table, internet gateway, NAT gateway, etc. And similarly, from the networking like hybrid and connectivity perspective, you should have very clear understanding of what is the purpose of, let's say, VPC peering, VPN, direct connect, transit gateway, virtual gateway, and VPC endpoints, right? So make sure you have this list in your head. And the moment somebody tells you direct connect, in fact, let me ask this. What comes to your head? What picture you visualize in your head when you hear the word direct connect? I'll give you 10 seconds to put your responses. Keep it short. Edge locations, dedicated, secure, okay, on-prem connection. Again, I'm still not getting the picture. No. Private, dedicated, yes. What is the picture coming in your head? See, we have the analogies master, Ashish here. Fiber, that's the one I was looking for. So the moment you hear direct connect, visualize in your head physical, high-speed, low-latency cables running across from your data centers all the way to AWS data center. Imagine those physical cables. If it helps, the role of cables, think of those things, because that is what direct connect is all about, right? It gives you that private, dedicated connectivity. It'll help you remember, right? The cables, as long as you can remember the cables, it'll be easy for you. Right now, again, we have more complications when you go internally. You have this direct connect partner, the location of specific details, 1 gig, 10 gig, 100 connections. There are multiple aspects, but as long as you can remember, this is some sort of physical cables being laid down from your data centers to AWS data centers. You know what we are talking about. So like that, always have these visualizations in your head when you're working with these different components. And from networking perspective, it is very important. You will have these questions where you will be given a scenario and you have to figure out, is it peering, which fits the best, or is it direct connect, which fits the best, or is it transit gateway which fits the best? So as long as you understand these components very, very clearly, it will be easy for you to answer. Okay, so that was the case, and yes, VPC endpoint is the right answer. Let's see, what do we have next? So this is one of those questions where you have a proper scenario. You are doing the role play of a solution architect, and you have to design something. It's an online shopping application. We have the usual, suspects here: VPC, EC2, ELB, availability zones. So read through it. Let me know what do you think. Once again, just give me A, B, C, or D. I will share the link. We will share the link, folks, not to worry. I see some of the folks are asking for that link. This is again one of those tricky questions. I would say read it carefully before you answer. Okay. All right, so I see already a lot of responses. D and A. Few of you are putting in C as well. So yeah, this one is one of those questions where you have this kind of, the hung jury, as I call it. So yeah, let me put this here. The correct answer is D. Now, a lot of you have put in C as well, but the main difference I will highlight. So the question is asking, the application tier must read and write data to a customer managed database cluster. So you have a database here. Think of it like a standard 3-tier application where you have a web tier, you have a logic tier, and then you have a database behind the scenes. So database will always be in your private tier. So this is like, I don't remember a case where I would put the database in a public tier or in a public subnet. So it is always be the backend. The confusing part, or the things where it is actually testing your knowledge, is the component called NAT gateway. Now we all know NAT gateway has been discussed before, that it is a component, or it's a service which helps your instances or services in the private subnet to connect to the internet. A very important point: NAT gateway helps you with the egress connectivity, not the ingress connectivity, right? So when let's say you have DB servers, they want to go outside for some sort of patching activity, or some sort of, to download the updates, or maybe to talk to some public endpoints, any reason whatsoever. If they need to go out and talk to the internet, you would use NAT gateway. And once again, at this point, I would like to highlight, make sure you have a very clear understanding between internet gateway and NAT gateway, because they are two different things. So NAT gateway helps the connectivity of the private resources in your private subnet, but the NAT gateway itself has to be put in the public subnet. Okay, so that's a very important aspect. And in this case, if you see here, the option number C would have been correct, except the fact that NAT gateway, it doesn't mention anything. And it's a very important design consideration that you put NAT gateway in a public subnet, not in a private subnet. Okay. Should be used in private. NAT gateway always be in public. That is correct, Mohammed. To obtain patches from the internet. That's right. So those are the use cases, or why would you want your database? The first question would be, why would you want your database to be able to talk to the outside world? And the answer is any kind of patching activity, upgrades. If you have backend applications and they are talking to public endpoints, such as probably Google endpoints, Twitter endpoints, Amazon endpoints, Facebook endpoints, you have an application designed which uses these public APIs, then you need to have connectivity between the outside world, internet, and these components inside. So you need to have that connectivity established, right? So hopefully that clarifies. Any questions, please do put that. And I will move on to the next question. Yep. Okay, so this is one of those questions where you have 3 right answers. And always remember, in your exam questions as well, it will clearly tell you, at least so far as any exams, I have given plenty of exams, AWS exams, and any exams when you take, it will clearly tell you whether you have 2 correct answers or 3 correct answers, or if it doesn't say anything, that means 1 single correct answer. So this is going to be the case in the exams as well. So here you have 3 correct options. Go ahead, read the question, and think. It can be a bit confusing. Don't worry, just pick your best bet, and then we will discuss afterwards. All right, so I see responses coming in. I'll stay wait for another maybe 10 seconds. Let's just submit to connect to the yes, Cynthia, I see your statement is absolutely correct. Looks like that's an answer to Abhijit's question. What is Abhijit's question, by the way? Should use Internet Gateway in public subnet. So yeah, I mean, if that was a confusion, folks, you would typically use Internet Gateway plus NAT Gateway. NAT Gateway does not replace Internet Gateway. That will be there still. And additionally, you will use NAT Gateway if you want your private resources to talk to the outside world. Anyways, I will stop talking, not to confuse everybody. Okay, so I think I have enough responses here. A, B, D, A, D, E, A, D, B, again, B, C, D. So mixture of responses. I see some of the options are quite obvious, and some of them might be a bit confusing. So let's take a look. So rotate keys and change passwords for the IAM accounts. So this is, again, the situation is that your account administrator has left the company. So you had, let's say, think of it like a small startup organization where we have probably 100 people. And let's say I was handling your accounts. I was handling everything with regards to AWS. And today is my last working day, or maybe yesterday was my last working day. And let's say you have replaced me. Okay. What actions you need to take in order to make sure that I don't mess up with anything because of my access? I have left the company. I have some sort of grudge, let's say, right? And I want to do something mischievous. And your job, because you have replaced me, is to stop me from doing that. Okay. So what are the things which you would choose? So if you see here, rotate keys and change passwords for IAM accounts. So what you're doing is, once again, I'll come back to that option there. Delete the administrator's personal IAM account. I think this is something which is like pretty straightforward. So, and I'm assuming, I think most of you have answered B in your options there. So B is definitely. So my personal account definitely should be deleted or deactivated, whatever as per the processes of the retain the employee. Yeah. All right. So delete all IAM accounts. Of course, you don't want to do that. If we have 100 people, there is no point in deleting everybody else's account, right? That's not the right way. Change the password and add MFA to the root user. Now, presumably, if I was the admin, I would know the root user. Chances are that I would know the root user. So it would be a good practice. It would be a good idea to go ahead and at least go ahead and rotate the credentials for the root user, right? Because just assume, think of the verse, we have this, I forgot the saying that in security, we say trust but verify, right? So it's something on those lines where you trust, but you still want to verify and you want to make sure that you take the best possible course of action. Relaunching all of your EC2 instances with new role. Can someone tell me why this is not relevant? If you understand how roles work. Option number E, why that is incorrect, why that is not even needed. I'll come back, Samuel, to your question. Rotating keys, I'll tell you. Rotating keys or rotating password is same thing. What happens is that when you have these additional keys configured, you want to make sure that you rotate them. Basically, you deactivate the old one and generate the new ones and replace them wherever applicable if you have system accounts configured and all those things. Okay, so that's again a good idea to rotate, because again, assume that I have those keys with me, and these are a bunch of alphanumeric keys. If I have them, again, it's not a good idea, or it's not a good thing for you to know, right? So for you to kind of have. So you want to make sure any keys, if potentially I have those keys, you want to make sure that they are replaced. If any passwords, again, the individual passwords I would not know, but there would be some IAM generic accounts for which I would be aware of the passwords, because I will have access to those passwords. Potentially, I am managing those accounts, those service accounts, those applications. So it's a good idea to go ahead, let's say Apache or Nginx, and you use service accounts for these purposes. So you make sure that anywhere where it's a potential that I know those secrets, those passwords, you want to rotate them. And the word rotate simply means that you deactivate the old one and create a new one in its place, and replace that wherever applicable, which is application or system accounts or service accounts or wherever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I agree on that.
Parnaj.
And yeah, Sharik, thank you so much. This is interesting questions, and it's good. Like there was a question like, do I get a partial credit for half answered question? Answer is no. It's a binary choice, 0 or 1. Either you get full credit or you get no credit at all. So there is no. And the good thing is there is no negative marking. But yeah, multiple choice questions are complicated because technically you are answering 2 or 3 answer, not just one. So the chances of answering them wrong by guesswork can be complicated. So just be aware about it.
Right.
Thanks, Sharik. And I would now introduce Nicole. Nicole wants to talk about exam logistics, because the well you know about logistics, it would be easy for you to understand the question and other aspect associated with exam. So thanks, Sharik. We will connect back at the end, but let me add Nicole to stage and we will get started from there. Hey, Nicole.
Hello. So I'm also sharing a slide deck.
Let me add to stage.
There we go. Perfect. Good. So some of you might have gone already through the process of registering for the exam and have kind of overcome the exam initiation, but some of you might not have gone through this, and the more technical exams will add a different layer to your exam experience when it comes to a test center or doing it at home. But first things first. So for those who have never registered for an exam before, the first thing you need is to create a Builder ID, which you already have if you have signed up to Skill Builder. If not, go for it, sign up. It's just creating an email address with this account, waiting for a one-time password before you then can create a proper password for your Builder ID, which then allows you to log into the certification portal. The certification portal will then have an AWS flavored user interface to begin with. If English is not your first language, you can go and choose exam accommodations, which will automatically add 30 minutes to your exam on top of what the exam time is. It's auto approved. You just need to wait a couple of minutes. And once you got the approval, you can go and do the rest of the exam sign up. Obviously, there's a choice also of different languages that is different from exam to exam. So if, for example, French was your native language, you could also do the exam in French, in which case you wouldn't get 30 minutes. But from personal experience, I'm German. Some of the exams are available in German, but because all of the materials are in English, I always sit the exam in English because it's easier to transfer what I've learned to the exam because the terminology is the same. Good. So once we have done that, we have our exam accommodation, you can go and schedule the exam. In this example, I have marked the cloud practitioner, but obviously there's the certified solutions architect associate here, and that would be the one you go for. Sometimes, not very often, but sometimes there might be 2 versions of an exam available. That happens when we have a beta exam for like a major kind of update, and the old one is still running next to it. Then you would potentially have something like SSA 03, and the beta exam could be called SAA CO4, in which case you just need to make sure that you pick the right version. At the moment, there is no problem. There are no better exams for any of the existing ones. You just need to make sure you choose the right one, the associate rather than the professional. Once you have done that, you will be taken to the Pearson VUE user interface. And the first thing you have to do is to check whether you would like to go into a test center, which I highly recommend, or if you want to do the exam at home online. And I will spend some time on the two options because I've gone through both. During COVID, there was no exam test center option. And I had to recertify my solutions architect associate that way. For a cloud practitioner, there's not really a difference between test center and doing the online proctored thing because it's not a very technical exam, relatively short questions. So I don't think there's a big difference. For any technical exam, there is. If you go to a test center, first of all, if something goes wrong with your computer there that they provide to you, it's not your problem. If something goes wrong, you are able to resit your exam for free. It's not a fail, it is a problem that the test center had. The other thing is when you go to a test center, you will be able to have a blank piece of paper, or some have these erasable boards that they give you. So you can take notes, you can draw diagrams to visualize the question, which is really helpful, especially if you go for a more technical exam, because sometimes our questions are relatively long and you might actually lose track of what we described. So being able to draw what you are reading and then really thinking it through, especially if you might be struggling with a question, can be a big, big bonus. If you sit at home in an online proctored exam, there is no way they will allow you to have a piece of paper or whatever, because it could be a tool to cheat, in their opinion. So be aware of that. This sheet of paper you get in a test center because they provide it to you. At home, that's not an option. Other things that are also something you want to consider, because the exams are quite long, right? We're talking about 2 hours for the more advanced one, 3 hours, is if you're in a test center and you need to go to the bathroom, you can do so. They will lock your computer. You can go to the bathroom, you come back, they unlock the computer. You need water, you can have water. If you need food, you can have food as well if you need to, right? You might want to check with the test center up front if that's okay with them, but in most cases, you can do so. At home, again, complete different setup. You're not allowed to have anything simply because the online proctor needs to make sure there's nothing on your table, so you there have nothing to kind of use to cheat. That's really what it boils down to. So from an exam experience, especially considering you might be nervous on the day, a test center is the better option. If you really have to do the exam from home because the next test center is too far away, for example, or there is none anywhere nearby, or even in your country happens sometimes, then, well, you have to make the best out of that situation. But I give you a little bit of an insight into what online proctored means. It usually means you have to show up and be online half an hour before and open this browser, specific browser that you have to install days before. You also days before have to do systems check to make sure that your computer can deal with whatever you need to install there. The other thing to be aware of, Wi-Fi is great, but Wi-Fi once in a blue moon might not be your best friend and go down. Or the speed might not be great. So what I really recommend is if you need to do an online proctored exam, you plug a cable into your computer and you have your internet hardwired. The other thing to consider is the room you're in. So you cannot be in a room where there's potentially noise coming in, or your family interrupts you, your pet comes in, whatever it is, right? You need to be in a room that's completely silent. Nobody has access to it or knows they shouldn't access the room. It should be free from any electronics, so no printers, no pictures on the wall, no phone, no nothing, because before the exam, you will have to use your phone before you throw it over your shoulder to film your whole room. You also have to show that there is nothing under your desk, on your desk, glued to your walls or windows that could be used to cheat. So it's quite an annoying process, keeping in mind on the day of the exam, you might already be nervous. So I was fed up by the time I was done showing the online proctor my room, which didn't really contribute to the fun that I had during the exam. But the other thing, once you're done with all of that, is that you are constantly watched by someone. So you will have a little photo of yourself or film of yourself in the corner with a green or red circle around your face. Red is not good. Green is, yeah, all is fine. You cannot sit there and do this. You cannot talk to yourself. You cannot scratch your head. All of these things will raise suspicions with the online proctor and potentially trigger this person to chat with you, which is really disruptive. If you sit in the exam, you want to concentrate, and if you have someone thinking, oh, you just, scratched your head, is highly suspicious, and they need to chat with you, they can really interrupt your train of thought. So during my exam back then, I had 2 or 3 instances where I was interrupted by the online proctor for no good reason. Another thing to consider is your computer. So if it's your private computer that has not anything on it that could interfere with this test browser, that's great. If you use your company computer, like I did, very bad mistake, you might have agents on your computers that decide that once in a blue moon, and more often during your exam, they want to phone home and say, all is great, we're fine. The exam software that you install can in some cases think that this is an attempt of you to cheat, to leave the browser you are in and go to a normal browser you have on your computer and, search for the answers. In which case you get like also these flashing warnings that tell you, stop doing what you're doing. It depends from proctor to proctor and what is interrupting, how bad it is. I had customers where the online proctor finished the exam because of that. And it was just because an agent called home to say they're still compliant. So avoid computers that have anything that calls any place during your exam, because it could be considered an attempt to cheat, even if it's not. And again, these messages that pop up during the exam, they're right over your exam question, highly disruptive. So long story short, if you can go to a test center, go to a test center. So once you decide on what you do, you can pick your exam language. As I said, if you use English and it's not your native language, you get the 30 minutes extra. And then depending on what exam you sit, there are many, many other options when it comes to exam language. But as I said, they differ from exam to exam. Some exams are only available in English, others just in a handful of languages. And I think the cloud practitioner is the one that has the most selection when it comes to languages. Once that is done, you have to accept the terms and conditions. Please read them carefully because they also contain some of the things that Pearson VUE wants you to know around the whole exam piece, like cancellation periods and what have you. Find a test center. So if you go for an online proctored exam, they will just ask for a date and a time. That's pretty much it. But if you want to find a test center, you just type in your city, your postcode, your closest office, whatever suits you best, and you will get a list of test centers, the one that is closest to you, usually at the top, and then going down by distance. Once you've chosen one, again, you select your date, you select a time, moving then to checking if everything is okay, you've chosen the right exam, the right test center, and so on. Summarizing also the price for the exam before you then are taken to the payment site, where you then just use your credit card details to pay for the exam. So once you have scheduled your exam, you will receive an email from Pearson VUE, which is usually a calendar invite with the details to the exam. And as I said, I think in one of the first sessions we had, yes, it's great to have this calendar invite in your calendar, but you need to make at some point in your journey a go, no go decision, right? Because you should schedule your exam to have something to work backwards from. And usually 5 days before I have my exam, I have a reminder in my diary that says, Nicole, now it's time to make this go, no go decision. Do you reschedule or do you take the exam? And if I don't reschedule the exam on that date, I'm going to take the exam. No matter how bad I feel, no matter how nervous I am, I will go and take the exam. And as I explained back then, the reason this is really, really necessary is because the closer you get to an exam, the more nervous you get. And you might think, oh no, I'm not ready, although you are ready, and you cancel for no good reason and are just pushing out the inevitable, right? So this is why you should have a second reminder, and that is really the day where you have the no-go decision. If something unforeseen happens after your no-go date, then you have still up to 48 hours before the exam to reschedule. But I really, really would say only do this if there's really an emergency. You should not, at that point in time, make a decision based on whether you feel nervous or not. 5 days before an exam, you know if you're ready or not. You don't figure that out 48 hours or 24 hours before the exam happens. Good. So that is all that I had in regards to scheduling the exam. So I hope this was useful, and I hope it was also useful to kind of get a insight into the differences between online proctored exam and the test center. So if there are any questions, I can't see at the moment because I'm sharing my screen. So what did we have? Yeah, you can schedule up to 3 times, yes. What else do we have?
Yeah, Parna Mehta is typing and just answering every question which comes in. So thank you, Parna, for that.
Her keyboard
Really
is on
nice.
fire, isn't it?
Yeah. And she is like very nice to get all the answers done. And if any answers remains, reach out to us on the Discord and we would be happy to take it. Shouldn't be an issue. Thank you, Nicole. It was informative, and obviously this will help people in getting more clarity on how the exams are scheduled and what to be aware. That was a good tip about going to a test center. There are a lot of value add which happens because of that, maybe a little bit of travel, but still worth it. And so that's good. And I want to talk a little bit more on the exam, on the logistics of the program, what we are going to do next, just to give some information. So let me take over the screen share and I'll get started. I'll quickly talk about some of the new things we are looking for. Now, obviously, we want to allow people or reward people who have been here for, give me a minute, it is not working as expected. Stop screen share, present it again. And idea is that we want to talk about like what next is coming up, how we are going to move forward. And thanks, Nicole, I'll add you later back. So just information, like if you have ever attended all the 12 sessions, or you have recorded the BESA, you've seen the recordings of BESA session and shared it or commented on it, please make sure you reach out to us. We would be happy to give you a 3-month access of AWS Sandbox if it has not been already given to you by winning your things. So if you're not a winner from last 11 weeks, but you were present for all 12 days and you recorded this information into the chat messages. So if you are one of them, people who attended 12 live sessions, and if you have recorded session you have watched and you have commented on it or shared on it, then please reach out to us and we would be happy to give you access to 3 months of AWS Sandbox. And if while this program was running, if you passed any AWS certification, maybe Cloud Practitioner, Certification Associate, we would be happy to share a voucher with you also so that you can enhance your skill and learn further. This is what I wanted to discuss. Now, we still have few books to give away. We have 2 remaining winners. So if you are sharing, probably you will end up with the Cloud Career Journey books, or you would end up with the WizLab access. So that's what we have. Now we are not, so formally the batch has ended, but still we are going to continue with a more discussion because Kapil has some idea and I also wanted to discuss about well architected. So we would still have a session and we would be then discussing AWS well architected in detail. Maybe one session or maybe two sessions, we still haven't figured out, but we would talk about well architected because it is so important thing for any architecture or any exam you are going to talk about. So we would be going ahead with this well architected review also. For this week also, we would be picking up some winners. So make sure that you help us in spreading the word about it. What your learnings are from the last 12 weeks, what you learned, what we have done, and what you achieved from that, or what you achieved personally. Let us know, and probably you will stand a chance to win these goodies. And we are looking for inputs. Obviously, we want to ensure that we cater to the needs of community, and that's why we started the Discord channel. So if you haven't joined Discord, please feel free to join it and share your thoughts, like what feedback you have. Like some feedback we got, we are going to act upon it. So it would be much easier for us to look to the feedback you provide and then take care of the next session. There was a request from Pawan about how about the professional certification. So we can think about it. What we are also thinking about going into deep dives. Maybe one topic we discuss, let's say we talk about config today, or we are talking about cloud formation, or we are talking about Lambda, and we will go deep dive into those specific topic, 300 level information, which can help you to prepare your advanced level certification also. Any upcoming sessions on generative AI? We haven't thought about it, but as this is a very much demanding topic, yes, we would be looking into these things, and we want to ensure that we give you those kind of information which will keep you at the front end of the technology. So yes, we would try to do that. That's all I wanted to talk about. So feel free to reach out if you had any feedback, any suggestion. And I want to thank everyone. I'll add everyone back onto the stage, and please feel free to share your thoughts. Nicole, I'm adding Sharik, Prasad, and Parna, so that you could also share what your experience was and how we have hopefully achieved what we were looking for, to at least upskill few people and get them ready for the cloud rules.
I would like to just add one thing here before we discuss everything else. Nicole's point, I just wanted to add there. If you have kids at home, less than 10 years old, don't take your exams from home. It happened with me. I am giving you an anecdotal example. I was going through an exam, and my son, he's 6 years old. Then he was 5 years old. He literally barged into the room, and he said, "Papa," he said something. He went out, and I had to go through the whole cycle of showing the laptop, turning 360 degrees, and everything. So just a word of caution: unless you have a room all for yourself, you can lock it from the inside. Don't try it at home. So,
Another word of advice from me. So, do the test. There's one pre-test, the software test, which comes as a reminder for you to do on your laptop. Now, there's a warning here. Of course, Nicole mentioned it, and always better not to do it on your work laptop. But I had a problem even in spite of doing the test. So, when the test came up, the software, it somehow the test had actually passed earlier, but when the software came up during the exam time, there was something preventing it. Okay, so always prefer taking it on a personal laptop if you're doing it from home. Never
Yes.
a work laptop. Do not be connected to VPN or anything. And the second thing is, I always prefer going to a test center. Like I said, all the headache is on the test
Right.
center, because even if the internet goes off, I mean, it mustn't be happening in places like UK or Germany and
Right.
things like that, but it happens often in India at least. So if the internet goes off, if there's noise in the background, they are very touchy about such things, and just like Nicole said, they'll be looking around. You'll have to practically clear out your entire room. There should be absolutely nothing around. So that itself is a painful experience to do before your
I had
exam.
my smartwatch, Parna. They asked me to remove that watch
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. So
I had my handkerchief over here in case I sneeze.
right,
That was also removed. So
right.
Use managed service. Go to a test center, use managed service. That is much better than creating these services on your own.
yeah, but I think some of them mentioned that the test center may be closed. I don't know if that happens, but do check out, because I think some of them mentioned that sometimes the test centers are outdated on the Pearson list, and they might actually book your exam, but they might be closed. So just do that check as well.
Has it happened with anybody? I mean, that's something a bit surprising for me because list is generally up to date. What I know, in fact, on that note, just want to highlight here, if any of those things happens, as Perna mentioned, you might have issues with the internet or anything else. Anything happens whatsoever, it's much easier to get a replacement or a rescheduling or even your money back if it is through a test center versus if you're doing it from your home. You have to go through it. It happens, but the email chain and talking to different people, raising a support case, it's much more complicated compared to when you go through a test center, because it's just their word and they simply attest to what you have said, and you typically get a chance to reschedule or just go ahead and cancellation and you get the money back. It's much easier, much more smooth.
Makes sense. I agree. Nicole, any final tips from you?
Someone says they struggle to test center in London. So there are a couple of them. So there was I think there were some problems when we went away from PSI because they had most of the test centers in London, but some of them are now back. They have rebranded or are now using Pearson VUE as well. But there are outside of London, which is like the border between Surrey and London. There are a couple of test centers. They're actually very nice, although I would highly recommend using public transport. They don't have many parking spaces. And if you drive a Mini like I do, you find a space. If you have a bigger car, you might not find a space, or your car might not make it out without a scratch. So I would say test centers in London and outside of London, take the train. So yeah, and the other thing is to check if your test center is really still there. You have in the booking place always the address and the phone number. So before you book, you could just call them up also and see if they're still around or if they're open on that day. They obviously have not the luxury opening times where you say, I rock up at 10 p.m. and want to take my exam because I'm a night person. Then it's online proctoring, unfortunately. But they're usually open from 8 till 5 or 6. So you should have the normal working hours with every test center. It might be different in India, especially during heat waves, right? That they may be closed down during the hottest time of the day. But in Europe, it's usually normal working hours that they're open.
That's good tip, and thank you for that. And Prasad, are you there? Hopefully everyone has learned something.
Having
You're on
my
mute.
breakfast.
Yeah,
I'm having a
come
breakfast
on.
alongside.
Yeah, I know it's
Remembering.
10:30 already.
Yeah. No, thank you everyone for joining for the 12 weeks. If you have been able to join us live, that's great. If not, completely fine. But thank you along for following along and encouraging also us. Like every feedback that we get from you encourages us. I just got few WhatsApp messages from few of the people about how BESA has been helpful, and this is really humbling experience for us. So yeah, share it with everyone so that we can spread the word and more people can benefit. This is the way we try and scale BESA, because all of us understand that one-on-one mentoring, initially me, Ashish, and I'm sure everyone else, we did a lot of one-on-ones. We do continuous one-on-one, but it's not a scalable mechanism. And that's why we have BESA, through which we are try and scale as much as possible. And as Ashish said, we have another session planned for next week. So feel free to join. And even for the further practice, we are planning about what next we should be doing. So any feedback, feel free to let us know what you would like us to cover. And let's keep the conversation going for this on the Discord channel. Ashish, let's start a Discord thread for suggestions for the future batch.
Exactly.
And in that thread, we can have this.
We can do that. So yeah, let's
conversation going, and
create
then
a thread there, and we will share.
Yeah.
So any feedback, good, bad, that is good. Means feedback is important. If we are doing good, let us know that what worked well for you. If we could have improved upon something. Obviously, I can't change do a plastic surgery to my face. I will look the same all the sessions. But yeah, anything beyond that, I would be happy, or we would be happy to accommodate. Shouldn't be a problem at all. Hope you are learning and enjoying. So without further ado, I'll close the call today, and we see you into the next week if you are interested into well architected. Otherwise, all the best for your exam preparation, and let us know how it goes. Thank you so much.
Thank
you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.